For a long time, the Rat Pack's appeal and air of secrecy have captivated the sector. But behind the glitz and glamour, there are stories but to be instructed. Now Ernest Borgnine, one in every of Hollywood's maximum beloved icons, has determined to interrupt his silence on the enigmatic Dean Martin. What turned into Martin clearly lacked behind the suave personality, or there's secrets only Borgnine knew. Prepare to find the untold truths about a friendship that formed in the technology of Hollywood like no other. This revelation promises to alternate everything you knew about the King of Cool. Firstly, let us speak approximately Ernest Borgnine and Dean Martin's dating. Borgnine is a wonderful actor. He's at the set of From Here to Eternity, this epic movie, and he is probably thinking this is going to be a musical due to the fact Frank Sinatra is in it. Anyway, he runs into Dean Martin throughout filming, and this come upon sticks with him all the time. Borgnine says, "I'm on foot, off the set," and Dean Martin comes on stage and says to the target audience, "Now there is an actor." So, Dean Martin says, to the target audience, "Now there is an actor." Right then and there it hits him. This wasn't just some random praise. Dean intended it. Now let's rewind a bit. Who became this Dean Martin man anyway? Born Dino Palucci. This youngster from Ohio had a tough begin. He changed into talking Italian at home, then struggling to study English in faculty. He even dropped out. Can you accept as true with it? But from time to time, the high-quality stories come from those who ruin the regulations. Johnny drops the regulations. Ruin the lives of those with better friends. But from time to time, the high-quality stories come from those who ruin the regulations. He attempted the entirety, boxing, bootlegging, you call it. He even called himself Kid Crochet within the boxing ring. Finally, he unearths his groove in track. He starts making a song, gets observed, and he is on his manner. But then, World War II hits. He receives drafted, fortuitously, receives discharged early, and jumps returned into show enterprise. And this is wherein Jerry Lewis is available in. Joe travels to France. And this is wherein Jerry Lewis is available in. Dean Martin, this clean operator, meets Jerry Lewis, the wildcard comic. They meet at a nightclub and sparks fly. They turn out to be this iconic duo, and the relaxation, as they are saying, is records. Moving on. Dean and Jerry, this dynamic duo, teamed up for a musical comedy show. Dean, the easy singer, and Jerry, the graspin' bodily comedy. They had been like fireplace and ice, a really perfect, healthy... Their debut at the 500 Club in Atlantic City became, well, it wasn't exactly a standing ovation. The target audience appeared more burdened than amused. The club owner, this man named Skinny D'Amato, basically threatened to kick them out in the event that they didn't step up their game. But these guys had been resilient. They went back to the drafting board, and boy did they arrive returned with a bang. Except the next day. Over an hour later, 3 members of the club arrived within 1 hour of trying. Their next display become pure magic. Jerry would interrupt Dean mid-song, sending him right into a hilarious chase throughout the degree. Then there was this bit in which Jerry, dressed as an inept waiter, could crash Dean's performance, losing plates and typically wreaking havoc. The target market went wild. Their reputation exploded. Soon they had been the speak of the metropolis, even touched down a niche at the Ed Sullivan Show. They knew they needed to take things to the following degree, in order that they hired a few pinnacle-notch writers to assist them craft their act. Things were looking up. They signed a lucrative radio cope with Paramount, raking in $75,000 a fortune back then. But fulfillment wasn't without its demanding situations. Dean and Jerry started to butt heads. One thing was for certain. Dean felt like Jerry turned into overshadowing him, that the focus turned into too much at the slapstick and not sufficient on the track. He wanted to explore distinctive avenues, but their contract with Paramount essentially tied their arms, and it is wherein things genuinely took a flip for the more severe. The tale was a very pathetic one. Just consider you are on degree along with your excellent buddy. The crowds are going wild, and then poof, your face gets erased from the duvet of a magazine. That's basically what took place to Dean Martin and his comedy companion, Jerry Lewis. See, those two had been a dynamic duo. However, their friendship took a critical hit while Dean felt totally snubbed with the aid of Jerry. It all went down in 1954 when they did this loopy, over-the-pinnacle 3-ring circus act. They even got a magazine spread. But guess who changed into mysteriously missing from the photo? Dean. Pissed off, Dean decided he'd had enough. No more Paramount, no extra Jerry, he declared. And while his agreement ultimately expired, he hightailed it out of there. Now all and sundry notion Dean was going to crash and burn. He's nothing without Jerry, they scoffed. But Dean, bless his coronary heart, proved them all wrong. He went solo, that specialized in his making a song career, and boy should he sing. That's amore. Memories are manufactured from this. Everybody loves somebody. Those tunes have been considerable, but Dean wasn't content to be a crooner. He desired to behave, to be a movie superstar. He tried. Oh, how he tried. So, but shall we embrace his early performing career turned into a piece of a mixed bag? Then came The Young Lions in 1958. This battle movie became a success, and all of a sudden Dean was back within the spotlight. He became rubbing shoulders with Hollywood royalty, John Wayne, Ricky Nelson, the entire shebang. He even were given nominated for a Golden Globe. From then on, Dean changed into On Fireplace. He starred in lots of films and even produced some himself. He had become a legend, a real icon. And let's now not neglect The Rat Pack. So incredible is that movie. After he left The Rat Pack, Dean, Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr. These guys have been the final party animals. They sang, they joked, and they charmed their manner through each display. Vegas never noticed something adored sooner the Dean Martin display came on board. Sooner than the Dean Martin display came on board. Think of it as the remaining relaxed TV display. Dean, looking results easily suave in a tux, could banter with guests, make some off-coloration jokes, some may say a few too many, and normally have a terrific time. It became a big hit. Even though the censors at NBC had been constantly on his case, off display, Dean changed into a devoted circle of relatives. Man, no matter his playboy image, he cherished his spouse and children. And while he portrayed himself as a chunk of a boozer on TV, his pals say he wasn't certainly that a good deal of a drinker. Years later, Dean and Jerry subsequently buried the hatchet. It changed into a touching second for them. Things went smoothly after that, till something tragic happened to Dean. In March 1987, negative Dean Martin, the crooner, lost his son, Dean Paul, in an aircraft crash. It'd become a real tragedy, flying with the Air National Guard and the whole thing, and it hit Dean difficult. He truly spiraled, fell into a deep despair, and became to the bottle for consolation. Frank Sinatra, an excellent pal of his, tried to cheer him up by taking him on tour. However, it was like seeking to place out a hearth with gas. Dean was glued to his bottle, and that cigarette in no way left his lips. And speaking of cigarettes, those years of chain smoking eventually stuck up with him. In 1993, they advised him he had lung cancer. Surgery was an option, however, Dean, together with his stubborn heart, wasn't having it. He retreated from the spotlight, spent time along with his family, and just faded away. Sadly, he surpassed away on Christmas Day 1995 at 78. Sonny passed away on Christmas Day 1995 at 78. But that wasn't enough for him to stay down. The whole international mourned the loss of this legend. Even the Las Vegas Strip dimmed its lights in his honor. From a child who dropped out of school to a global icon, he ceased the journey. The Reverend Gregory is very sensitive to the harm. He praised God for his life and died, and asked for blessings on his DNA. Now that we've discussed who Dean Martin became, let's communicate about what passed off among him and Borgnine. Borgnine, in his very own words, gave us a glimpse into their friendship, showing us an aspect of Dean that went manner beyond the suave picture and the rat-packed swagger. It turns out that Dino turned into a devoted friend, a devoted man who became more than only a pretty face. Now allows, communicate, approximately Ernie. This man, born Hermes Ephron Borgnine, had a quite humble start. He grew up in a working, magnificent circle of relatives in Connecticut, the son of Italian immigrants. After excessive college, he did what any purple-blooded American would do. He joined the Navy, and when 1-2 hit, he became right back in uniform, serving his years. After the war, Ernie became lost, and he was no longer positive what to do together with his life. Ernest Borgnine wasn't precisely cut out for manufacturing facility paintings. It didn't take him long to realize that. Lucky for him, his mother had a sharper eye for his talents. One day she informed him, "You are always creating a fool of yourself in the front of human beings. Why not get paid for it? Most kids could roll their eyes. However, Ernest, he had an epiphany. Sitting at the kitchen table, he all of a sudden felt like a light bulb went off in his head. And 10 years later, he got his start on the Randall School of Drama in Hartford, then joined the Barter Theater in Virginia. This location became a gem. It let human beings exchange such things as apples and eggs for tickets returned during the Great Depression. His first role came in 1947 with State of the Union. It wasn't a big part, but the target market cherished him. He stored the momentum going with The Glass Menagerie with the aid of Tennessee Williams, gambling the gentleman caller and proving he may want to deliver the drama. By 1949, he was prepared for the Big Apple. He made his Broadway debut in Harvey as a nurse of all things, and then came TV. His first gig changed into On Captain Video and his Video Rangers. It sounds campy, right? But it opened the floodgates. He'd popped up everywhere. Goodyear Television Playhouse, Laramie, Fireside Theater, you call it, he'd change into on it. Hollywood got here calling quickly enough. Well, perhaps now not pom-poms and cartwheels, however, he'd call, visit, and remind Borgnine how gifted he'd become, and what sort of he meant to anyone who knew him. Basically, he was the guy who'd shake you via the shoulders and say, "Snap out of it, you're brilliant." But their friendship wasn't pretty much critical stuff. Hayes knew the way to snicker, like clearly laugh. Whether they have been on set or chasing golfing, they cherished the easy joys of striking out. Their banter might have been its comedy display, and you can guess they made life on set a lot more enjoyable for anyone around. What made their bond so unique changed into how real it was. They saw through the Hollywood glitz and focused on who the other person absolutely changed into. No ego, no faux smiles, just two men who sincerely cared approximately every diff. In a world full of photograph ops and floor-level connections, their friendship changed into as rare as finding an easy vehicle in LA after it rains. Borgnine and Martin's courting is a reminder that even in case you're surrounded with the aid of reputation and fortune, it's the people who stand with the aid of you through thick and skinny who clearly count number. Because while existence throws its worst at you, or even just a terrible round of golfing, you need a person who has got your back. Again, your jokes, and maybe even the tab at dinner.